Welcome to the Explainer. If you're the kind of person who loves tearing things down from the top just to see how they tick, well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're undertaking a complete structural breakdown of the ultimate machine, the human body. And we're doing it using a truly fantastic piece of source material. We've got these authentic, handwritten anatomical study notes that perfectly map out the body's taxonomy. Okay, let's dive into this.
206. It really is a magic number, isn't it? Literally every single adult human walking around on this planet is built from exactly 206 individual pieces. It's an absolute architectural marvel. But think about it. How do you organize 206 separate components into a single, functional, moving machine? You need a master blueprint.
And here is that very master blueprint. This flowchart is our primary source material for today. What I absolutely love about this handwritten diagram is its charm, but also its strict, top-down, hierarchical tree structure. It doesn't just throw a list of parts at you. It shows us exactly how they relate to one another. We're going to follow this exact tree to unpack this complex taxonomy, step by step, branch by branch. We'll even be keeping the original authentic phonetic spellings from the notes because it gives such a great sense of a real student actively working through the complexities of human anatomy.
Here is our roadmap. 1. The 206 bone blueprint. 2. The axial skeleton division. 3. Anatomy of the skull. 4. The appendicular skeleton. And 5. The upper and lower limbs. We're going to methodically zoom in from the macro structure right down to the specific branches.
Section 1. The 206 bone blueprint. The Great Divide.
Right at the top of our source notes, this massive 206-piece puzzle is split into two primary structural divisions. On one side, we have the axial skeleton, making up 80 bones. On the other side, we have the appendicular skeleton, spelled here phonetically in our source as appendicular with just one P, and that contains the remaining 126 bones. Basically, think of the axial as the central pillar of the body and the appendicular as everything hanging off that pillar.
Section 2. The axial skeleton division. The core 80.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how neatly those 80 core bones can be categorized. Looking at this breakdown derived from the flowchart, the axial core is mathematically divided into 4 distinct sub-branches. You've got the vertebral column with 26 bones, the head structure, noted here as the scale, with 29 bones, the ribs accounting for 24, and finally, the singular sternum holding the whole chest together. Let's break those down a bit further.
Our source perfectly unpacks those 26 vertebra bones into 5 distinct regional categories. Reading straight from the phonetic spellings in the authentic notes, we start up at the neck with the cervical, move down the mid-back for the thoracic, hit the lower back with the lumbar, and finish at the base with the sacral and the coccyx. It is a beautiful sequential descent straight down the human spine.
Branching right out from that spine, we have the rib cage. The notes quickly tick through the classifications of the 24 ribs. You've got your true ribs, the false ribs, and what our source charmingly notes as the floating ribs, those unattached lower ones. And of course, anchoring the true ribs at the front is that single, vital chest plate, the sternum.
Section 3. Anatomy of the skull. Unpacking the scale.
To really understand the skull, we have to break it into 4 specific groups that add up to 29. We've got 8 cranial bones forming the brain case, 14 facial bones forming the front of the skull, 6 tiny ear ossicles hidden deep inside, and 1 solitary hyoid bone floating in the neck.
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer architectural complexity of the human head. On the left, our source outlines the 8 cranial protectors. You can see the authentic spellings from our notes here, like the parental at the top of the skull. On the right, we contrast this with the 14 structural facial bones. Notice those unique phonetic spellings again. The upper jaw is noted as the manila, like a manila folder, and the cheekbone is the zygomatic. It's an incredibly structured division of labor between the bones that protect the brain and the bones that give us our face.
Rounding out the 29-piece scale puzzle, we have the hidden mechanics. The 6 ear ossicles, 3 on each side, are listed as the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. These are literally the tiniest bones in your entire body, absolutely crucial for hearing. And finally, the singular hyoid bone, uniquely isolated right there in the throat.
Section 4. The appendicular skeleton, connectors and appendages.
Let's move to and see how this builds. We are literally turning the page in our source material here. On the left is the master list we just decoded, and on the right is page 2, where the student's notes visually bridge the structural flow into a detailed breakdown of the appendages.
It is a perfect continuation of the hierarchy. Following that hierarchy, the 126 appendicular bones are split into two massive subbranches. The vast majority, 120 bones, make up our limbs. But, to attach those heavy, swinging limbs to our central axial pillar, we need anchor points. Those anchors are called the girdle, and they make up the remaining 6 bones. Let's look closely at those 6 anchor bones. The girdle branch divides into the lower anchors and the upper anchors. On the left, we have the 2 bones of the pelvic hip bone, composed of 3 fused parts, the ilium, the ischium, and the pubis. Over on the right, we have the 4 upper anchors called the pectoral girdle. This includes your shoulder blades, spelled here as scapula, and your collarbones, written as the clavicle. These 6 pieces act as heavy-duty structural mounts for your arms and legs.
Section 5. Upper and lower limbs. The final 120.
What should immediately jump out at you from this breakdown is the perfect mathematical symmetry of the human body's appendages. The 120 limbs are split right down the middle. Exactly 60 bones making up the lower limbs, and exactly 60 bones making up the upper limbs. So the crucial point is that our arms and legs follow a mirrored structural pattern, perfectly captured in this table from the notes. Both start with one thick upper bone, the femoris for the leg, the humerus for the arm. Both have a 2-bone lower segment, the tibia and fibula below the knee, and the radius and ulna below the elbow. Then we hit the joint clusters, the ankle tarsal and wrist carpal. We span the foot or hand with the metatarsal and metacarpal. And finally, both terminate in the exact same way, with the digits, listed uniquely in our source for both hands and toes as the phalangus. It is such an elegant, repeated design.
And just like that, following the logic of a single, brilliant handwritten flowchart, we've essentially mapped out the entire human machine. From the central 80-piece axial core up to the scale, down through the girdles, and out to the mirrored perfection of the 120-piece appendicular limbs. We are walking, talking feats of biological engineering. So I leave you with this thought. With 206 pieces so beautifully and perfectly categorized into this master blueprint, how well do you really know the machinery you're operating right now?